When your army has crossed the border, you should burn your boats and bridges in order to make it clear to everybody that you have no hankering after home. Sun Tzu. By burning your boats and your bridges, you are willfully and intentionally submitting yourself to hostile enemy territory, placing full trust in yourself and your plan of attack. There is no retreat, there is no safety, there is only confrontation. Question. Yeah, sure. Yeah, do I like have to have a plan? Do you have to have a plan? That's a joke, right? No, like I just don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. Oh, okay, you don't want one. I'm sure there's plenty of good ideas on how to plan and strategize in this book. I mean, I haven't actually read it, but it's called The Art of War for a reason, right? Nah. Okay, so you want to do something risky, cut out all access to a safety net, and not have a plan. Yeah. That's the stupidest idea I've ever heard. You're setting yourself up for failure. I mean, who in their right mind would willingly do that? This video is about Joe Rogan's new comedy special, Burn the Boats. But it is also about Joe Rogan as an entity. What has led him to this point and how he chooses to navigate out of it. This video is about gluttony, it's about hypocrisy, and it's about uncomfortable truths. Truths buried, lost to the subconscious. Truths so far removed that you forget how blatantly they show themselves to the naked world. Comedy is embracing. It's a celebration of the ugly, of the insecure. And it will get those truths out of you, regardless of if you choose to tell them or not. It's a thin veil. And if you accept the fact that people can see every inch of you inside and out, then there's nothing to be afraid of. But if you choose to ignore it, then people will see that too. If you know the enemy, and you know yourself, then you need not fear the result of 100 battles. Now this is Joe Rogan's first special back in 6 years, making it his third Netflix stand-up special. Now 6 years is a lot of time to write and plan. Not to mention that Joe Rogan has made a big name for himself in the stand-up scene, jumpstarting the careers of now several extremely well-known comedians. Regardless of if he is or isn't funny, he is at the top of the comedy food chain, and we kind of have to accept that. So there is a lot that is riding off of this special, but it's nothing Joe shouldn't be able to handle. I mean, it's Joe Rogan, someone who professionally performs stand-up and now owns a comedy club because of it. He should know how to gracefully maneuver a pressured and stressful situation like this. Now, just for reference, this special took me about 3 days to finish. It's only an hour long. And in those 3 days, I took about 5 pages of notes. And among those 5 pages of notes, I solely devoted the entirety of one singular page to the first 5 minutes of the special. Just the first 5 minutes. Was I high off an edible while taking these notes? Sure, but that's neither here nor there, okay? So, while I will be discussing different parts of Joe Rogan's new comedy special to better convey my points, I will mainly be sticking with the very beginning. 1, to save you some sanity. You're welcome. And 2, because the first bit pretty much captures everything in its entirety that is wrong with this special and with Joe himself. So let's burn some boats. Now, right off the bat, we were given a taste of the dynamic between the crowd and Joe Rogan. First shot, huge crowd. I mean, this is a big crowd. Joe walks out, and there's something off. He marches out, his presence is loud, uncomfortable even. Saji, he's just confident, I say to myself in the third person. Well, I argue that confident people are usually calm and poised. They usually have no reason to overcompensate or overextend their mannerisms. No, this is different. The nervous glancing, the panicky pacing, the shouting random shit. But I am making some hasty claims. Let's look at another example. Like Joe's outfit. Now, I'm not one to remark on the clothes that people wear, but this is all just so poetic. For one, the color of his shirt. It's loud, it's distracting, it's mustard yellow. It almost intentionally screams projection, as if to say, I'm a real comedian, I know what I'm doing. Even besides the color, there's something else that makes Joe feel small. Now, Joe's short, we know this, he even jokes about it in this special, but he looks small. I mean, he feels physically small. And that shouldn't be the case when you're the only person in the frame with no one else to compare you to. That doesn't add up. Now, why is this? Well, it's the proportions of his outfit. I mean, it's Dress to Look Tall 101. Emphasizing the length of your legs is the go-to for easy height maxing. Joe, you have Gen Z children. Please ask them about baggy pants. The problem lies herein with the fact that Joe is a fairly muscular guy. So any normal fitting pieces of clothing are going to look tight on him. And he's wearing normal fitting clothing. And it fits tight. What makes it worse is that the shirt is bigger than and drapes over the pants, breaking rule number 1 of Dress to Look Tall 101. Instead of emphasizing the length of his legs, he's emphasizing his upper body, which is probably on purpose. Man moment. This is what is taking away inches from an already short Joe Rogan. So now not only does Joe feel shorter than usual, but the crowd feels fucking huge. And we only get a couple shots in the beginning, but just based on our perspective of Joe, I as a POV audience member feel intimidating to him, like I'm towering over him, both physically and figuratively. So before Joe even starts, there already feels like a tangible disconnection between him and the crowd. But let's let it play out, you know. Maybe I'm all in my head. Maybe I'm crazy. 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 You know what? Maybe I just need to accept the fact that I am crazy and instead use it to my advantage. You see, my brain works in wondrous and mysterious ways. Ways in which a lot of planning and organizing applications simply cannot accommodate. Which is why I am so happy that Milanote is the sponsor of today's video. Milanote is the perfect tool for personal pre-planning and organization. It gives me, someone who has a lot of overwhelming thoughts, the ability to dump everything out and manage it in a much more digestible. Milanote makes use of the video and they're easy to easily organize my main talking point. Insane in hindsight, but I do promise it does make sense later. This is the other subboard that I had made. Again, this looks crazy, and I don't really have an excuse for it yet, but this tool did allow me to piece together sub-themes of the video so I could further organize the smaller details in a more complex way, and it was honestly really helpful. Milanote also makes it easy to work with images, which is great since I tend to work better visually. You can drag and drop photos or files with ease and efficiently proportion them to your liking. Everything is extremely creator-friendly, providing a smooth and non-distractive workflow. If this is something that interests you, well, you're in luck because Milanote is available for free with absolutely no time limit. So sign up for a free Milanote account using the link in the description, and thank you Milanote for sponsoring this video. Now, as Joe begins the special, he starts with a very interesting joke.
It's my new home state. I've been living here for 4 years. I fucking love it. I love it here. I'm never moving. The only adjustment I've ever had to make is Texas weed. You think it's the same. Texas weed is different.
Texas weed is a weird reference to bring up right off the bat because Texas weed in itself is an oxymoron. Not literally, there's weed in Texas, but it's all illegal and inaccessible. Sure, that doesn't stop people, but it makes it pretty difficult. And besides that, the majority of your fan base is mainly conservative, specifically conservative white men. And even though there is increased support for legalizing medical and recreational marijuana among the right, conservative white men remain the biggest opposers to both forms of legalization. But Joe here has been able to bypass the semantics of legality because he has the power to do so. So my question is, who is he trying to relate to? Who in this crowd is he attempting to relate to? I mean, this seems like a strange, out of touch thing to bring up as the first joke of the special. Well, actually, I don't consider this one a joke, like at all. I consider it more of a thesis statement providing structure and foreshadowing for the overall special. God, Joe is so good. Here, Joe does more foreshadowing than actually making the audience laugh, casually hitting the main themes and talking points that are going to be discussed throughout, which normally would be fantastic. If he was writing a 9th grade English paper, the first joke Joe starts with covers Joe Rogan and spirituality and psychedelics. This is one of the main themes that recurs throughout this special. And I know I haven't shown you the punchline to this joke yet, but that's because it announces our second theme of the special.
Because if you smoke too much Texas weed, like, we gotta give this land back. Dude, what the fuck did they do? I heard that every Buc-ee's is built on an Indian burial ground.
That's right, the anti-woke and conservative rhetoric theme, which it isn't surprising. It's an easy cop-out to immediately get the audience back on your side. And boy, does Joe Rogan love defaulting to this option. The third theme shows itself directly after this punchline, structuring the sentence almost intentionally like a thesis statement.
That might be misinformation. Don't say you heard it from me because I am known for that shit.
I am known for that shit. And this theme falls under Joe Rogan talking about himself. Not opening up and being personal to relate to the crowd, but talking about his online persona. Because he doesn't know how to relate to anyone that doesn't have $1 million in a personal way. It's funny that I mentioned that, because that's actually what all three of these themes have in common. They tell us right off the bat that Joe Rogan has no idea how to relate to his audience, or any audience for that matter. That he will be using crutches to lazily and barely hold himself up as he constantly swings and misses throughout this special. We are not fit to lead an army on the march unless we are familiar with the face of the country. Its mountains and forests, its pitfalls and precipices, its marshes and swamps. Now this special kicks off in the most Joe Rogan way possible, by discussing the existence of aliens, of course.
I think the dumbest argument that aliens aren't real, people go, if aliens are real, why don't they just land on the White House lawn? Oh, well, when you go fishing, do you check in with the president of the lake?
Ooh, okay. First of all, do people say if aliens are real, why don't they land on the White House lawn? Or do they say, if aliens are real, why haven't I fucking seen any yet? And, Joe, I don't think there's a president of the lake, so not sure if your analogy applies. But, hey, spreading misinformation, you are known for that shit. This is the start of the first beginning bit of the special. And it's a really great example of Joe Rogan really not being able to relate to his audience. It really puts us in perspective of how he views the world, and how that perspective is drastically different than his own audiences. But it's a good thing he can immediately draw their attention back to him by using an over-publicized and misconstrued conservative talking point.
You can come here from another planet, you really think you're gonna wanna talk to Biden? Take me to your leader. I got hairy legs. My uncle got eaten by a cannibal. Come on, man.
You can tell Joe isn't used to doing impressions by how uncomfortable he looks after that one.
I think...
The joke itself doesn't even make any sense. He's just saying gibberish to make fun of Joe Biden's dementia. It isn't funny for a particular reason, it's just Joe Biden, old. Well, it makes no difference anyway, because the audience is cheering and laughing, just at an ill mention of Joe Biden. Like programmed robots.
If I was an alien, I would treat us the exact same way the aliens do. I wouldn't give a...
What is that? I think if I was an alien, I would treat us the exact same way the aliens do? What does that mean? If you were an alien, you would conform to the same status quo as the other aliens. Oh, I see. Sheep.
I wouldn't give a fuck who's in the Pentagon. I would find some dude cooking meth in the middle of Arkansas and I'd teleport him up into the spaceship and explain to him telepathically that time is an illusion, even though you can measure it, and that all human beings are the product of accelerated evolution, put here to give birth to AI. And then I'd drop him right back off in the woods.
Okay, just being nitpicky here because I can. Joe's impersonation of an alien is really bad because it sounds just like him. These are all things Joe Rogan has said in his podcast. So why would an all-knowing alien be talking about those things? Better question, why would a meth dealer from Arkansas be freaked out? Wouldn't they just say, you know, it's funny, you sound just like my favorite podcast host, Joe Rogan. We begin to sort of see things go downhill during this portion of the special. At the, 3-minute mark. The coke, it seems he snorted before the show because of insecurity and self-doubt, really starts to show itself here via tensed facial muscles and sweat stains through his beautiful mustard shirt.
Say, now go tell someone, bitch. Go tell him how I touched your butt.
Holy shit, he is scaring me. What the fuck? Now, besides the fact we get our first glimpse of Joe Rogan being coked out of his mind, we also get to see him butcher the end of this joke and consequently the segue after. The timing of this joke is terrible. After initially ending this joke with an adequate punchline, unsatisfied, he decides to throw in another.
And say, now go tell someone, bitch.
And because of the pause, it just doesn't land as hard. So of course, he's gotta add another punchline to the same joke.
Go tell him how I touched your butt.
There is no redirection, there's no misdirection. For any of these new punchlines, he's just indirectly emphasizing his amateurish comedic ability. But this punchline's important and necessary because it amateurly segues us to the next joke, which is, more butt stuff. Right, I forgot to mention, there's one more consistent theme throughout this special, and it's butt stuff. It's lots of butt stuff, which, you know, is fine if you didn't hate trans people, but we'll come back to that later. The consistency of the butt stuff throughout this special, I think, is actually a byproduct of Joe's psychedelic experience. He's more comfy with his sexuality. I did not like the use of that word. He is more
comfortable
with his sexuality because of his experience with psychedelics. Which, you know, again, is fine if he didn't hate trans people. Now, the timing of the multiple punchlines of this joke has already killed the audience's laughter retention rate, making this transition feel even more awkward and forced. So I don't think adding butt stuff is gonna help much either. And, you know, Joe's got his I'm fucking insane face on, so that definitely doesn't help.
Go tell him how I touched your butt. What? What's that all about? The alien anal probe, we all know. Why do we know that? Why is that always a part of the story? The alien anal probe, we all know. Why do we know that?
Oh my god, he looks insane. He literally looks insane. He's coming off as genuinely, derangedly curious. Like, he really wants to know, and if you don't tell him, he's going to hurt you. What? I don't understand why you got quiet, audience. I genuinely want to know what this is about. The alien anal probe. We all know. We all know about the alien anal probe. This feels like exactly what it is. Joe Rogan is on a coke-fueled tangent about butt stuff, motivated by his closeted bi curiosity. Which, again, would be fine if we didn't fucking hate trans people. This is where we really start to feel the audience disconnect from Joe. I mean, they are fucking confused at where he is going with this.
What's that all about? The alien anal probe, we all know. Why do we know that?
And I think that since a large portion of Joe Rogan's audience are conservatives that were cultivated during COVID, they tend to relate more to the Joe Biden bad jokes than the but what if butt stuff good jokes.
Why is that always a part of the story? Because I think it makes the story more ridiculous. Makes people less likely to believe. Makes people less likely to believe. I think there's...
People are scared laughing. They are anxious laughing. He just looks.
Why is that?
His eyes are watering.
Because I think it makes the story more ridiculous.
His eyes are watering from him not blinking. That's how much coke he's done. Okay, so when I went back and actually heard the words he was saying instead of hyperanalyzing his face, it sounds like he thinks that the alien anal probe stuff is brought up because it makes things less likely to believe. Okay, so I think I hear what you're saying. So it's like a CIA operation. Operation Alien Anal Probe. The government is spreading ridiculous rumors so the concept of aliens becomes trivialized, therefore making people less likely to believe. Think I catch your drift here, Joe.
I think they're sitting in the spaceship going, what if somebody believes him? Put something in his ass. Make him love it. Make him just jizz all over himself. Just, oh God!
Okay, nope, never mind. Jesus Christ, fuck, never mind. That is, what the fuck?
Imagine if you have your greatest orgasm ever on an operating table on a spaceship. Oh, Jesus! You're gonna leave that part out. Your story's always gonna seem suspect. People are gonna go, is that all that happened? That's everything. That's the whole story.
Okay, so actually the aliens do probe people, but they do it because the abductee will be too embarrassed to mention the probing part because they secretly really enjoyed it? But they'll still mention all of the other parts of the abduction to their friends. I'm confused. You're confusing me, Joe. Because in this hypothetical and controlled scenario, this hypothetical human abductee that was probed is saying all the same things a hypothetical human abductee that wasn't probed would say. So what does the probing accomplish then? You're telling me that the segue into a sidebar isn't actually making the point it's trying to, rendering this whole joke dead. Carcass in front of me just decomposing. A joke so bad that it was unpredictable in how bad it could actually become. Starting bad and ending worse somehow takes true talent, and I have to give credit where credit's due. I never thought I'd dig this far into a Joe Rogan joke, but man, was that not worth the dissection. I feel like janitors have a better time taking out the trash. Yeah, that's right, my job is harder than a 9 to 5. Now, that was the first joke of the special. Just the first one. But already we have a great example of the direction Joe has decided to go in for Burn the Boats. No direction? All of the directions? I don't know, I guess as long as he's high on coke and can talk about butt stuff, he's happy.
Maybe that's how they get our DNA, you know? That's how they get cum out of donkeys.
Yeah, not just human butt stuff. Not just human butt stuff. Disciplined and calm, to await the appearance of disorder and hubbub amongst the enemy. This is the art of retaining self-possession. Now, Joe's experience with psychedelics is really interesting to me, especially during this special because, oh my God, did he just come off as batshit crazy.
A lot of people are like, I like to microdose. It makes food taste better. It makes sex feel better. You gotta get to what are memories made out of? You gotta go to that. Maybe the universe is God.
It's interesting to me because it just consistently conflicts with his crowd. There's a part during the special where Joe talks about taking mushrooms at the airport and how it's the best place to take mushrooms.
No one acts normal at the airport. They're all standing around, talking quiet. They're all worried they're gonna die. When you're high, you blend right in with those folks.
I mean, who is this bit for? Oh, I could tell you. It's specifically for 20-year-olds who have no responsibilities or duties to attend to, i.e., me, and also Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan is internally a 20-year-old frat boy who did shrooms once and discovered empathy. This entire special is a ping pong match with Joe Rogan playing against Joe Rogan. One Joe is trying to embrace the podcast self and discuss drugs and embracing each other and everyone is human and we're all meant to love each other. And the other Joe is hitting back and saying, but fuck trans people though. And then psychedelic Joe hits back by saying, but what if the aliens are real and they're probing us in our butt? And the other Joe is hitting back and saying, but there's no way trans people exist though. Like what? This entire special is hypocrisy and complete inner conflict. And it's physically showing on his body. He aged years in the time it took to record this special. His face pulsing, his eyes practically squeezing out of his head. And about 1/3 of the way through the special, the topic of trans people gets brought up.
The last person I want mad at me is a pregnant man. Do you have any idea how unreasonably confident they would be? You got a full beard and you're breastfeeding a baby going, I am in defiance of God!
It's almost like watching hypocrisy physically strangle him.
Why does this taste like jet fuel?
Ugh, and God, the awkward pause of silence because he thinks the laughter is going to be more drawn out is just, oh my God, I can physically feel that awkwardness. Yeah, I'm sorry, but the way that Joe delivers that joke is infinitely more strange and concerning than a hypothetical trans woman breastfeeding a baby. In fact, there's even more to unpack. A trans woman in this situation has transitioned for themselves, maybe to feel more comfortable or confident in their own body. This is derived out of good intention and nurture for oneself. It is selflessly selfish. And it's a risk. It puts a target on your back, directly opposing societal norms that are upheld by individuals that threaten to harm you just because you want a better life. That is more of a metaphorical burning of the boats than whatever the fuck this special tried to do. Now, Joe Rogan is in a situation where he's recording in front of hundreds of people to then later be seen by hundreds of thousands of people. Even though he clearly realizes, and we clearly realize and understand that he's unprepared for this special, he decides to ego lift and push through, relying on crutches and easy cop-outs. This is done for the betterment of Joe's ego, his perceived image, his status, his legacy. Being selfishly selfish so he can uphold a societal expectation, a societal standard. Trans people are everything you want to be, Joe. Literally defying the self-autonomy constraints that the world has put in place for people. You wish you could do something that metal. There are 5 dangerous faults which may affect a general. Number 1, recklessness, which leads to destruction. Number 2, cowardice, which leads to capture. Number 3, a hasty temper which can be provoked by insults. Number 4, delicacy of honor which is sensitive to shame. And number 5, over-solicitude for his men, which exposes him to worry and trouble. When an army is overthrown and its leaders slain, the cause will surely be found among these 5 dangerous faults. Let them be a subject of meditation.